Welcome back to episode 12 of Project X, where we're taking you on a journey with us to find private label product opportunities, teaching you along the way so that you can build your own business using these simple, same methods. Now, in the last episode, we walked through how to put together the images in your listing. So if you haven't seen that, I recommend watching that first. Now, in this episode, we're going to walk you through the thought process on something that's one of the most widely debated things in the Amazon process, right, Tim? The launch. What are some of the things that we're going to be going over?
We're going to talk about theory. We're going to talk about philosophy. We're going to talk about things you don't want to do. We're going to talk about how you shouldn't be reliant on a launch, but how to use a launch. We're going to talk about the methods, the strategies, the mindset going into this thing. And it's like, now that everything is primed and loaded, we have our inventory and we have our images done, we have our listings done, what next? And this is when we hit the go button.
Absolutely. We're going to talk about why huge launches are not mandatory, how to get those initial reviews. Everybody always asks that. How to leverage PPC or sponsored ads during launch. So if you'd like a written version of this episode, make sure to go to helium10.com/X12. My name is Bradley Sutton from Helium 10, and this is
Tim Jordan from the Private Label Legion.
Welcome to another episode of Project X. So now let's get into the nitty gritty. First of all, we're using the L word, launch. But what does launch mean? We have a lot of new people out there. What does a launch mean?
Well, the term launch is really too big. People use it for a lot of things. Launch could be like launching your business. Launch could be actually turning your listing on and selling. Or launch could be maybe like a manipulated, I don't even know how you describe it, like doing things to improve your sales, right? Like that's the problem is the word launch is too broad. And when we get in these Facebook groups, people say things like, I'm launching my first product. What does that mean? They're doing 1,000 giveaways and doing like a manipulative launch? Or does it mean I put one product in Amazon and I hope it sells? So we're going to define different levels, different layers of launch, which I've never seen done really in a public forum. And we're going to get into these new methods and kind of philosophies that we use. So to answer your question, launch can mean a lot of things. And hopefully after this episode, you'll understand a little bit better the different definitions. All right, so when we're talking about launching on Amazon, there's a lot of popular methods. There are some that were like maybe very popular a couple years ago that aren't anymore, but they're still mainstream. So what are some of those mainstream big launches that we understand like in this Amazon culture?
Yeah, one of the first things that come to mind is what's been called giveaways or discount promotions. And basically what that consists of is you have a product, right? You have it up on Amazon and you do what's called a giveaway with like a heavy discount, like 60, 70, 80% discount. And when you use a service or you have your own audience, and then basically you blast it out there and say, hey, everybody search for this word or use this link in order to search for this word. And then let me get 100 people or 200 people a day for 8 days or 10 days to search for it. Now, that method still works. Actually, you can even use Helium 10. We've got this thing called the CPR number that tells you how many you have to quote unquote give away in order to try and get to page one. But that's a very expensive way of doing things. And it's not as widely used, I would say. Like I would say 1/5, if not 1/10 of the people who were using it maybe 2 years ago are using it now. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, and a lot of these things used to work, these big giveaways, because Amazon's algorithm, which would basically determine this is the best product under this search term, so we'll put it up on page one, position one of a search term, right? Amazon used to basically put a lot of weight into that algorithm based on how many units are being sold. And they weren't really considering the price or the traffic or, if it was 101 day and the next, 2 weeks, nothing gets sold. Amazon's algorithm was simpler. And it was basically saying, hey, these products are moving, let's rank them. So as Amazon's algorithm has gotten more refined and more complex, they have started to figure out that, hey, we need to actually show products on page one or page two that people actually want, not just let people game the system, so to speak. So the big giveaways, the big coupon codes, and a lot of these Amazon still has, they even have it internally, you can do coupons, but doing a 90% price off giveaway, 100 units a day doesn't work like it used to. The same thing with Amazon's internal like promotion systems, like the lightning deals and the deals of the day. Those are great, you can get some ranking on that, but it doesn't work as well as it used to.
Yeah, and it's important that we get in the right mindset even just on launches itself, just like way back in, I forgot if it was episode 1 or 2, we talked about product research. And when we're looking for products, it's not necessarily about trying to find products, but Tim tries to find keywords. And that's what's the name of the game on Amazon too. Yeah, you could have done this lightning deal, right? And your sales velocity is crazy, but at the end of the day, that is not going to help you unless where you show up in search results for keywords has improved. And that is the name of the game with whatever strategy that you are using for launches. The end game is, hey, I want to show up higher in the search results for keywords because that's how people find your listing.
And we're not just here to beat up on methods, and we're not just here to beat up on what sometimes does work. But remember, the whole purpose of Project X is to give you a simple way to find products that are high in demand, low competition, preferably that aren't super saturated. They're not super, competitive. They kind of fly under the radar. So that being said, I don't like products that require a launch, but I like knowing about launches as a bonus. Okay. So if we know that launches can help, that's great. But we never want you to pick, buy, and try to sell a product that requires a launch. And I see this all the time. I see people looking at massively saturated products and saying, well, yeah, it's saturated, but I can get on page 1 if I give away this many units, and I'll budget for that because over 6 months I'll have made that money back. Don't do that. If your product that you're potentially choosing requires a synthetic launch to sell your product, you're barking up the wrong tree, you're going down the wrong trail, you don't need to do that. All right, so what I want to do now is illustrate to you what a typical launch cycle looks like for an Amazon seller, all right? So let's say you've got your launch vehicle here, your rocket, and this is your product, all right? This is not an easy thing to build. You've got to engineer your launch. You've got to build your launch. You've got to put this rocket on the launch pad. Like, this is expensive. Think about, NASA, how many, millions of man hours and how expensive it is to actually put a rocket on the launch pad and launch it. So here's the problem with these big rocket launches, right? Is we spend all of our time, energy, money, effort building this rocket, engineering it, filling it full of fuel. And that fuel could be things like PPC costs and giveaway budget and all this stuff. And when it launches, it's amazing, right? It's spectacular. We see people all the time, they go, oh, I'm from page 30 to page 2 and I've got all these sales and this is great. But when this rocket launches, what normally happens? It goes up into the stratosphere and then what?
Comes down.
It comes right back down. Rockets don't just stay in orbit forever. Remember we talked about keywords, the difference between like the jumbo jets and the Cessnas, right? Like which one is easier? Well, the rocket is very amazing, but it comes back down. And there's another problem with launches. Let's say we're on a very competitive keyword like collagen peptides, right? There are probably thousands of people that are trying to launch that product, and you've got your rocket built, and you launch it, right? It goes up, and then about the time that it's starting to fall down, guess what? You've got a million other rockets here. These are all your competitors, and they're all launching at the same time as you. So you go through this just constant nasty cycle. It's vicious. It's a battle of just falling and falling and falling, and it's terrible. And you're spending all that rocket fuel, right? That's why we don't like launches as being relied upon for product sales. So because we don't like this cycle that we've seen, literally, no exaggeration, we have probably seen 10,000 products being launched in the communities that we're in, and this happens constantly. So how do we stop that? One is exactly what we're teaching you in Project X. We pick the right product first. When you pick the right product that doesn't rely on one of these giant rocket launches, then you don't have to have this. You're not putting yourself in trouble. When we do want to actually use a launch, all right, a synthetic launch, we need to understand the time and place that's appropriate, how to use that correctly, and how to make sure that we stick and we're not just falling back down with everybody else, right?
That's important too about this falling down part. I mean, you could launch almost anything. Like I could launch to the first page of Computer Mouse this coffee mug using one of those artificial launches, those formats where, hey, I'm making everybody search for coffee mouse, and then they're all buying this mug, right? Sure, I can get to page 1, but what's going to happen after that launch finishes is anybody organically, or is anybody who's actually searching for a mouse going to be like, oh, you know what? I actually need that coffee mug. I'm going to go ahead and buy that coffee mug. No, they're not. So what happens, according to Amazon algorithm, they're like, wait a minute, this product is not performing for us, so it's going to fall down. So it's very important that if you do use one of these methods, you're choosing the right keywords, and all of that we talked about in earlier episodes. But what's even better than that is when you don't have to rely on something like that in order to rank. In Freedom Ticket, Kevin talks about how there's this product that he is like a calendars that he does every year. He doesn't even launch not one giveaway. He doesn't even have to run PPC or anything, and he's able to get to page 1 organically every time. If you can find that kind of product, that's just the golden goose right there. That's not always going to happen. So sometimes there are going to be quote unquote launches that you need to do, and we're going to talk about how to do that today. But that's the ultimate goal. If you can find a product that you don't even have to worry about anything that's artificially getting it to the top.
Yep. So let's talk about when, where, and why you would actually use a launch. And then later we'll talk about which of those launches that we actually think works well, okay? And I think that what I'm about to illustrate for you, the first time you saw this was at one of the Live Elite workshops, right?
Yes.
All right. So this is not something that is publicly shared. This is not something that we've shown a lot of people, and you guys are really the first big group that gets to see this. So let me illustrate kind of what that whole process looks like, what I call like storming the beach or storming the castle. We start off with a product, right? This is like step 1. We have a product, and now it's time to turn our listing on and get it selling. And we need to get the objective of getting a lot of sales. But what does that look like? Well, let's imagine that getting a lot of sales, all right, this point here is a castle, all right? And we want to storm this castle, okay? This is where we start off as Amazon sellers, and we're attacking those very short tail keywords, those very competitive keywords. Like this is the holy grail here, right? This is like we're getting a lot of sales per day. But we can't start from our little landing craft, right? So here's my little boat. And let's imagine this is our product in a boat, and we're coming on shore, all right? So we've got the waves, we've got the shore, that's the beach, and then we've got actual land and the castle, okay? So this is the beach. So if we were storming this beach to try to take the castle, we wouldn't just run the boat onto the sand and go running, and just run straight into the castle, right? It doesn't work that way. But that's what we see people doing all the time. We see people trying to take their little product that's like headed towards land, and they try to like attack their biggest competitors and try to take on the world. It doesn't really work. So in an actual like battle scenario, which honestly sometimes we're doing battle, in business selling on Amazon, what we're going to do is we're going to land on the beach, and then we're going to stop. And once we've set up, like a position where we can rest and we can gain, like some strength, and we can kind of dig in a little bit and set ourselves up a little base of operation, then we can progress further towards this main objective, which is the castle, okay? So when we've talked about launching products that don't need a big launch, a big synthetic launch, this is what we're talking about. We should only be finding products that we can land on the beach and we can sit there and we can make sales. And the only thing that takes is good optimization and maybe a little PPC, right? So there's products that we've launched consistently that we don't have to have these big giant launches, we just sell. Now, does that mean that we're happy and that we don't want to continue going for the castle eventually? No, but we need to slow down, we need to do this in steps. So if we land on the beach with our product, the KPIs, the objectives there would be things like getting a few reviews, okay? So we're on the beach, we want to get a few reviews. There are things like page 1 for long tail keywords, okay? So this is what that would look like, our coffin shelf. We know eventually we want to rank on page 1 for Gothic decor. Remember, that was a very large volume keyword. But we right now just need to rank for coffin shelves and coffin shelves and whatever all those other keywords that we decided we were going to rank on, right? So once we've ranked for those pages on those long tail keywords, those things are looking at the beach. We want to refine our PPC, okay? Now, we've talked about PPC with the testing and the optimization already, and we know that it takes a little while to get that dialed in. Like if we don't have that really dialed in and just narrowed in and just perfectly, screwed down tight, it's going to be hard to like tackle this giant, fortified castle, which is our competitors, if we're not already refined and ready to go. The other thing is we've got to have some sales volume, right? Because Amazon loves sales volume. They love to sell products, but they love to see that people are consistently buying stuff, right? So that sales volume may start out slow when you land on the beach. It may be 2 products a day, 3 products a day, 4 or 5 products a day. That's all right. Don't get frustrated because you haven't attacked the castle yet, which is where the big sales come in. But if you had to just sit there and sell, that's fine. I know a lot of people that sell products and only sell 5 or 6 units a day across 10 SKUs, and now they're selling 50 or 60 products a day at high profit. They're flying under the radar, just like we've talked about a lot in this project, and they're happy there. Another thing that we might look at as being, like on the beach would be more inventory, okay? Now, remember, we like this low risk, high reward business model. We don't like to launch products where we're gonna buy 10,000 units initially. Like, we wanna make sure it works. We don't wanna spend a ton of money. And we've also designed this process where you don't have to have a ton of money to get started, right? This is like the easiest way to get started in private label. Well, the problem is if you only have 500 units and you start selling, and you're selling 10 units a day, you're gonna run out pretty soon. And especially if you're going to try to do some of these big artificial launches and storm the castle, you're going to really have a bad day when you're going through that process and you run out of inventory, right? So on the beach, you might have, focused on getting more inventory, getting ready for that next push, right?
Yeah. So guys, it's so important that once you land on the beach, once you get there, you're not going to get to the castle if you're pushed out to sea right away, right? If you don't have solid footing. I'm just making this stuff as like solid footing.
Amazing.
I'm trying to use your illustration
analogy
here. If you sink in the sand, all right, you're stuck. You're not going to be able to get to the castle either. But here's why the previous episodes that we just did are so important. The listing optimization, the images, those are the things that help you get that solid footing so that you can get to the castle. Because what are the organic things that's going to help you move forward? It's going to be conversion. It's going to be sales. People actually buying your product because they searched something organically. They clicked it, they saw it, they liked what they saw, and they bought it. That is the only thing that's going to get you and help you to stay in the castle. So if you have ugly images, you can be on first page of something, but people are going to click on it. They're probably not going to buy. If you've got a keyword stuff title or using wrong grammar like I use all the time, right? You're not going to get anywhere because that's not going to convert well. So guys, if you have not watched those episodes, make sure to go back and watch. I think it was like 10 and 11 because those are so important. That's why we have this all in kind of a sequential order, because if you don't have your listing on lock, if you don't have your images on lock, this whole episode about launches is going to be useless to you because, yeah, maybe you'll get to page 1 somehow, but I guarantee you're not going to stay there because your conversions are not going to be there.
Yeah, everything that we've built to this point is your armor, it's your weapons, it's your army, right? And if you don't have all those nuts and bolts screwed down, you don't have everything lined up and ready to go, like Bradley said in his amazing analogy he literally came up with on the spot, you're just going to get washed back out to sea, and you don't want that, okay? So let's refresh a little bit what the beach is. We're talking about long tail keywords. So just back to the coffin box. Those long tail keywords are going to be things like coffin shelf, coffin shelves. I don't remember what they were now, but
black coffin shelf.
Yeah, black coffin shelves, all that stuff. So those are the ones that are going to be easy. Those are the ones that, with just some PPC and with some really good optimization, we should be able to start ranking on immediately on page 1. And why is that? Because we found a product that has demand with very low competition, okay? It's as simple as that. This is why I get frustrated when people talk about, hey, you have to do tons and tons of giveaways and all these like crazy expensive promotions. You don't, because as we're going to show you, and I think it's going to work out exactly the way we're describing this, once we launch that coffin shelf, I think we're going to land on the beach, page 1 for these long tail keywords. It's going to be great. Now, when we're on the beach, right, long tail keywords, we're sitting there. Is that necessarily a bad thing? No, there's a lot of people that would kill to have 10 sales a day on a product that's very high profit margins with very low competition. But we're entrepreneurs, we like to go bigger, right? So if these are long tail keywords, the castle is going to be things like Gothic decor, right? Because we know that Gothic decor had like thousands and thousands and thousands of searches, right? And if you wanted to go even further to another castle, we could go crazy and like try to rank for home decor, right? Mm-hmm. I think it's a little too nichey and a little bit too abstract, but there's a lot of products where you can actually make this process several times. Boom, boom, boom. Now the time frame that I see landing on the beach and wanting to like set up a base of operations varies based on how competitive your product is, but usually a few weeks, 30 days maybe. Remember, we want to get a few reviews. We want to get up there on, the long tail rankings, refine our PPC, get some sales volume, get more inventory. This might take 30 days. It might take 45 days. Have some patience, right? Have some patience. This is a process. Remember we talked about rockets falling? when things happen too fast, Amazon thinks they're not organic, and you're going to lose whatever traction you've gained anyways, right? So when you start slow and do this by the book and correctly, your position, your sales rank, all that stuff is more likely to maintain. And long term, that's what we need in our business.
So we talked about getting to the beach, getting to the castle. Let's talk about how do we first get to the beach with something small, like how do we land that craft first on the beach, and then what's the second step? So the first step, in my opinion, Tim, you let me know if I'm on the same page as you, is the way I can get to that beach from the ocean, other than jumping out and swimming there, is maybe like some PPC campaigns that I can do, where I'm targeting some keywords, where it's not, I'm not having to invest hundreds or thousands of dollars, but it's at least getting me on the roadmap for some of these keywords to give me a fighting chance to get to that beach.
Yeah, we remember Amazon loves when we run PPC. They obviously make money on it, but it's also very good because PPC communicates with indexing, which we've talked about a lot, and it relates these keywords to the searches and all that stuff. So we can run some PPC for these long tail keywords and generally start ranking pretty quickly. And generally, if we found the right product, get on to page 1 very easily. PPC by far is the most tried and true, perfectly within terms of service compliant, like absolute rock solid method to getting here, right? So absolutely that. The other thing that I would say is really good optimization. We've already talked about that, but if you don't have that good optimization, that good armor, those good weapons already built around your listing, you're gonna have a hard time even getting PPC to stick.
So then what you need to do, so that you're just not blindly jumping into PPC, we did it all already in our previous episodes, so hopefully you guys follow those methods as well. You maybe targeted what your main keywords were going to be for the product. That's how you were able to optimize your listing. Like you had maybe 5 or 6 main keywords. You're like, hey, I want to get these in phrase form because I know they're bringing my competitor sales. Hey, I'm going to put that in my title, or I'm going to make sure that's in the search terms, all right? Keywords like that or have a very good feeling that are going to convert, you're going to want to put those in an exact match campaign in PPC. And we're going to show you how to do that in the next episode in detail with a coffin shelf. That's one step you can take. Another step is some other keywords, some longer tail keywords you weren't exactly sure, but you want to just kind of see if there's something that sticks. You can do like a broad campaign on those. We call those like a research stage, like you're researching the viability of some of those keywords. And then the last step of the PPC, you can actually just have an auto campaign with whatever budget works for you, so that you're letting Amazon, say Amazon, take the wheel and let me know what keywords you think I should be advertised for. And sometimes Amazon will show you from some random keyword that might not even be in your listing, and you convert for it. And you're like, okay, wow, that's a great keyword. I'm gonna make sure to use that. So those are the 3 ways that you can initially start with PPC. And it sounds like a lot, but we're talking like maybe 10, it depends on your budget, 10, 20, $30 a day is totally fine for those things.
Yep, so now that we have used those methods to land on the beach and gain our foothold and get like our base of operations, and we decide, all right, we've been here 30, 45 days, we've got some reviews, we've got all these things handled, let's push forward. Big ways to push forward, of course, are, it's gonna shock you, Bradley, more PPC, right?
Oh my goodness.
And think about that, PPC is dependent on keywords. So for our long tail keywords, we were going for coffin shelf and coffin shelves. Now we're going to start running PPC on things like Gothic decor and Gothic home decor and Halloween home decor, whatever these short tail keywords with much higher search volume are. So there's PPC. So aside from PPC targeting these more short tail keywords, the other thing we can do is actually do these launches, right? These things that we don't want to rely on, but we can use as a bonus. Of all of the different methods that there are out there, and there are a ton of them. We already talked about them, the super deep giveaways and all that good stuff. The best way to actually improve your ranking is to show Amazon that people are searching, finding, and buying your product, right? Which means we could probably call this next method
the search, find, buy method.
I promise we didn't just make that up. It's common. But of all of the different testings that we do and all the different feedback that we get from other sellers, this right now, as of 2019, 2020, is absolutely working the best. Now it can be a little bit more expensive per unit, but the great thing about it is you don't have to do that many units. Remember with the Helium 10 CPR method, if we were trying to launch on a even somewhat competitive short tail keyword, it might say give away 300 units, 400 units. We've been seeing cases where with the search, find, buy method, we're giving away like 10 or 15 or 20. And we are literally having people search by typing in whatever phrase we want them or search term, finding it on the page, click it, buy it, right? So search, find, buy is definitely a way to start moving towards that castle, your competition in those really, really competitive keywords. The other thing we can do is obviously try to get more reviews, right? A lot of ways to get reviews, and we'll talk about that again in just a second. But there are different methods that we would use for the first beach landing and different methods that we would use for this more aggressive, like storming the castle.
Yeah, so when we're talking about getting reviews, that's probably one of the number one questions that we get, because as we know, just think of yourself, we talked in earlier episodes about thinking like a buyer, not a seller, right? So you as a buyer, you as a Prime member, right? What do you look for when you are looking in the search results? Like, let's say it's a neck pillow. You find neck pillow and you see one with 5,000 reviews, one with 4,000, or let's take it smaller. Let's take it like a really unique neck pillow, right? You did some long tail, unique neck pillow that has noise canceling headphones or something like that.
Noise canceling headphone neck pillow for fat guys.
Yeah, that probably doesn't have thousands of reviews, right? One might have 50, one might have 60, one might have 70. Now, if one has 0 or 1 right there, which one are you probably going to click on last?
The one with 0 or 1.
Because subconsciously or psychologically, if we see something that has a lot of reviews, it's like, oh, okay, this is like, I can trust it more, right? So reviews are so important at storming the castle. So number one way that we suggest of getting reviews is something that Amazon actually provides us that a lot of people don't know about. What's that called?
The Early Reviewer Program. And this is built into Amazon. And let me tell you how this came about happening, right? Remember 2 or 3 years ago, getting reviews was super easy. All we would do is we would basically give our products away for free in exchange for a review. If you go back to some older listings and look at reviews 2 or 3 years ago, they had to put a tagline on it. This honest review was given in exchange for a heavily discounted or free product, right? And that worked. It worked for a long time. Amazon didn't actually decide to shut that down. The US government decided to shut that down. Most people don't know that. The US government has some agencies in place that are here to protect consumers. And we've seen this on a lot of other websites. It's not just Amazon. But basically what the government said was, if you're manipulating reviews, which are causing purchase decisions, this is not an accurate and unbiased thing, right? So the government said, hey, you got to stop doing this. So about that time when that happened, Amazon said, fine, that's cool, but we still have to have a way for our sellers to get reviews. So they enacted the Early Reviewer Program, which fits the guidelines and it fits perfectly within the mold of legally allowable, right? So the way the Early Reviewer Program works is you pay Amazon for up to 5 reviews, okay? You give them permission by enrolling in this program and say, hey, for every review that we get through this program, we'll pay you. And it's usually not that expensive, right? Once you get 5 reviews, the program turns off per that ASIN. You can't do it anymore. It only gets 5. But this is by far the best way to get your initial reviews that we found. Since your sales velocity when you're landing on the beach is low, you don't have a lot of people that you can solicit. You don't have a ton of people that you can say, hey, can we have a review? Right? So the Early Review Program, Amazon literally targets them for you, and they're very tactical. They're very analytical about how they set that up. It absolutely works. And what I have found personally was that the Early Reviewer Program usually has a high degree of 5-star reviews. It seems like, those review stars are actually really, really high. Now, other people started figuring out that, hey, if we can't have these manipulated reviews, they started doing the secret review groups, right? So the way that would look is I might have a Facebook group of 10,000 people, and I would load some products into there and say, hey, for every product that you buy and review, we'll pay you through PayPal, okay? Or we'll pay you some way that Amazon can't see. And people were still manipulating the heck out of these reviews. Government didn't like that. So Amazon said, we have to stop this. And the way that Amazon stopped that is they said, okay, we can't tell how people are paying for reviews and exchanging reviews and all that stuff, but what we can tell is the typical number of reviews per sale in a category. So Amazon could look historically and say, hey, in home and kitchen, for instance, the average number of reviews is 3%. So for every 100 sales, you might get 2 to 4 reviews. Well, if you have a listing that's getting 60% review rate, your first 100 products, you have 60 reviews, they know that you must be manipulating it somehow. So what do? They start deleting reviews. So there's no rhyme or reason to how they do that. I know people that had literally bought off the books, Amazon couldn't see it, hundreds, maybe 1,000 reviews. They woke up in the morning and all but just a few of them are gone.
And you can actually get your listing suspended. It's not just like user reviews, okay, you're not going to lose much sleep, but if they think that you are a review abuser, they're gonna put you in jail, Amazon jail. You won't even be able to sell your listing, or even your account could get suspended. Here's the thing about Amazon. If Amazon gets bad press about something, they are very quick to act on that. They got really bad press a couple years ago, some like expose report saying that, I forgot what it was, and like 80% of reviews are not even real, and they proved it. Well, then that's all of a sudden when Amazon like made it, against the rules to incentivize reviews and things. So just keep that in mind here going forward. Maybe there's something that a big news report comes out against something that's happening on Amazon in a couple months. Well, you can pretty much be guaranteed that Amazon is going to take some actions with the rules about that. So going back to reviews, how else can you get reviews? Like some people say, oh, the early reviewer program, I only got like one review, in 2 months. And sometimes that happens, all right? There's other ways that you could do reviews, not with a black hat, but with a white hat, all right? So one way is just by following up with your customers. Now, this is something that's, hold on.
Follow up.
I
feel like I've seen a tool under that name.
We got that in Helium 10. We're going to go into how to set that up a little bit more into detail. But guess what? That's something that as of the time that we're making this video is also in flux. There's a whole bunch of like rumors going around can sellers contact buyers to ask for reviews? As of right now, they can't. So that's why if you have your follow-up set up in your Helium 10 or you're using another tool for that, take advantage of that, because the organic review rate usually, like if you do nothing, right? You tell me, Tim, about your experience, but I've heard it's like for every 100 to 200 orders, maybe you'll get one review. Does that sound about right?
Yep, about 1%.
So that might not work for some of you. So if you do follow-up, it's not like, oh my God, we're gonna have like 10 reviews per every 100 orders, but it could easily, I've seen double or even triple the number of reviews. So 1 out of 100, 3 out of 100, that's actually a big difference. So that's something that you can do. Another thing that Amazon is actually talking about implementing is like having a button on orders where that you have to click on it to ask for a review. If that's the case, by the time you're watching this video, do that method. Here's another quick kind of hack or trick that was talked about in the Serious Sellers podcast. Carlos Alvarez, you actually went down there and talked with him.
Yep.
This is a guy
Carlos.
This is a guy who made what, $100 million originally selling what? Do you remember?
Crickets.
All right. And now he makes over $100 million on Amazon. But anyways, I had him on the podcast and he gave an absolute genius idea. Here's how it works. Yelp, okay? Let's say that you are selling like a coffee product. What's a coffee product?
Like a French press.
Like a French press. I don't even know what that is, but I'm assuming that's a coffee product, all right? You've got a French press, all right? So maybe like you'd probably have to be really kind of interested in coffee to buy a French press, right? I'm not interested in coffee, so I would never.
Yeah, moderately.
Like you're probably passionate about it.
Yeah.
Okay, so what you do, this is what he said he does. He'll go to Yelp and go to any city, right? And just type in coffee shops. And then all of a sudden now, actually, well, let's go ahead and do that on the screen right now. And we're in Irvine, California. Let's look up coffee and tea, okay? So what he does, he goes and finds popular coffee shops in his area or in any area that has a lot of reviews, especially the kind that really has those kind of like, I don't wanna say like hipster kind of people, but obviously it's one of those people that people are really dedicated to going. So let's look at this Omomo tea shop. It has 1,000 reviews, all right? I'm gonna scroll down here to the reviews and I'm gonna just take a look at some of these reviewers. And now if it's just here, I'm from Irvine and I love this place. I'm a huge Boba fan. That's not the kind of customer I'm looking for, right? I'm looking for somebody who's obviously really passionate about tea or coffee or something and really wrote a detailed review, maybe put some pictures in there. Like here's one person that left a detailed review. Here's another person that left a picture. Look at this one right here, all right? This person, QNL, has left 657 reviews and 2,539 photos, and she is in what's called an elite reviewer, all right? So I'm looking at this reviewer right here. So now I'm like, maybe she wrote something about this, coffee shop that's really in-depth, and like that's the kind of person I'm looking for. So I'm gonna click on her name, and then it brings up like her reviewer profile. I can see all of the reviews that she has left, all right? And you can see that she has left hundreds and hundreds of reviews. So if she's the type of person who's obviously passionate about coffee, all I have to do, I'm gonna like slide into her Yelp DMs, which you can do right here on this page, send message, and I'm gonna say something like, hey, Q-Yen, I love your review from this coffee shop. It seems that you're very passionate about coffee, all right? I have just launched a new French press product and I would love to get your opinion on it. That's how you start the conversation. And then from there, you just want her to purchase the product so that she can leave. You're not asking for a positive review, but you just want her honest review so that she can leave a review. And then that's the kind of person who would probably put pictures and leave a very detailed review. So that was mind blowing. Have you ever heard of that method before?
I've never heard of that. And obviously we know that we picked a boba tea shop. We were talking about a French press, but you get the idea. Obviously this isn't staged. We're making this up as we go. But you get the point. You can look and find people that are just really passionate about reviews, and you can reach out to them. You can give them a coupon, whatever you want to do, and get them to leave a review on your product. So let's just review this briefly, right?
Let's review.
Review. First step is we're not going all the way to the main objective. And honestly, we may never. There may be products that castle is just so competitive that we don't even attack it. We just stay on the beach forever. I've sold a lot of products that for years, I just stayed in this long tail kind of niche thing, and I sold 10 or 15 units a day. I was perfectly happy. But that's our first step always. We're not going to these big giveaways and the big search, find, buy stuff immediately. Once you get there on the beach, get some reviews through the early review program especially. Start ranking on those long tail page results. Get your PPC dialed in. Get some sales volume, get some more inventory. And the way that you're going to start getting those initial sales once you land on the beach really is PPC. That's like by far the best way. Once you're there and you decide, hey, strategically, it makes sense to start targeting those longer tail keywords, those more competitive niches and keywords. We're going to do that with different PPC campaigns. We're going to do that with some things like search, find, buy. And we're actually going to do that. And next episode, I'll actually show you how that went. And then we're going to find other ways to get reviews. And that's basically it. Now, there are a million more ways of launching and selling products on Amazon. I get that. But remember, we're keeping it simple. We're keeping it concise. We're keeping it very attainable. And we're searching for and launching, quote unquote, those products that are high in demand with low competition that generally fly underneath the radar. So now that you guys know the process, on the next episode, we're actually going to start walking you through that process. You're going to actually see us go through this process, and then we're going to take you on a journey from the moment that we launch to 30, 45 days maybe, and kind of see what happened. We're going to carry you along for that journey.
Sounds good. So guys, I hope you enjoyed this episode and that you understand the importance of launch. If you guys want to go back and review the episode, you can just refresh this page and do that. Or remember, for a written version, you can go to helium10.com/X12. So once again, my name is Bradley from Helium 10, and this is
Tim Jordan with Private Label Legion.
This has been Project X.